Hello, everybody. This is Lauren, and you are watching episode 1 of the Drawn Fire podcast. Um, that was a lame opening, I know. Sorry. I don't have a good radio voice, and I'm sorry about that. So, if you haven't watched the actual introduction or the idea for the intro of the podcast, basically, this is going to be more of a video series or a video cast or vlog or whatever you want to call it. I'm calling it a podcast just because I want to call it a podcast. Um, basically, it's just going to be me working and also talking while I work. So if you don't want to listen to my voice, which I totally understand, you can mute it and just watch me draw. For those of you that like both, that's cool. I'm glad to know that you do. But it's basically what I'm going to be doing is short videos on different topics while I work on different drawings. And today's drawing is a Smith & Wesson Model 19 short barrel, whatever, 2.5-inch barrel. And I'm just working on it. So you get to watch me while I blend. Isn't that exciting? It's like watching paint dry. So basically, I'm going to do these short videos, and today I want to do a short video about myself. For those of you who sort of know me, but not really, there's a lot of you on the Facegrams and the Instabooks that don't really know me, and now on YouTube, because this is going to go on YouTube. But you may know me on there, and I know I've probably got... It's probably mostly going to be customers and people that follow me on social media already that are watching this and listening to it. So I'll give you a little bit more background about me and what I do and why I do it. So I've been drawing since I was a wee lad. Like every other little nerdy art kid, I started drawing everything that I thought was cool, like Dragon Ball Z and superhero stuff and all kinds of stuff like that. And that was my beginning. I also started drawing a lot of tattoo related imagery because my father owned a tattoo shop, which when I was a kid was really awesome. Because I got to tell everybody, yeah, my dad's a tattoo artist. How cool is that? It was pretty cool, and he was really good at it. And he supported us, me and my mom and brother, on that, and for many years. When I was in high school, back in the mid 2000s, I started working in there as well, and kind of as an apprentice in that capacity. I didn't really start tattooing until I was about 16 or 17. I started doing a few. I did a few on myself. Did a few on some other customers. I liked tattooing a lot when I was doing it back in the day, but I wouldn't do it again. It's not really a part of me anymore, and I don't really... I don't see myself being all that interested. And I have a lot of people that ask me about doing tattoo designs, like, oh, you should be a tattoo artist, man, you'd make a lot of money. And I'm like, yeah, I've been there, just not for me. But definitely, I have a lot of respect for people that do it for a living, because it's not easy. So now I just do this. When I was in high school, or right after high school, I went to college. And just FYI, if you hear any weird sounds over here, it's my cat trying to be annoying. After I got out of high school, went to college, studied art and history and art history and other things in school, which was really cool, really good. I learned a great deal, and I really value my time in school quite a bit, and what I learned and the people that I got to work with. my teachers and whatnot. That was a great experience. I wouldn't really recommend. I don't know. It's hard for me to recommend people to go to school for art anymore. That'll be a separate video, but I did it and I don't regret it. But once I graduated, I graduated in 2013. I I kind of I didn't work a whole lot, but I was teaching at the university that I graduated from. They hired me on as an adjunct, basically part time, and I got to do that for a good quite a few number of years. Started teaching drawing. Had some drawing classes that I was teaching. Some intro to art type stuff, which most people found boring. I don't blame them. Unless you're an art person, you're probably not going to find the content interesting. But I still kind of like teaching it. But I did that. I taught classes like that and other classes like printmaking, advanced drawing, some other stuff like that. I taught there for, let's see, 2013. I took like a year off in 2017, and then in 2018 I started teaching again as a part-time just because money was not good, and that's why I don't do it now. This is the first semester that I've not done it, and I don't plan on really doing it again, primarily because it takes up a lot of time and effort, and it doesn't really pay the bills. So, that's okay. I don't really see myself as being a full-time teacher. I wasn't going to go get a master's degree to be a full-time college professor. It's just not my thing. I really like I like doing what I'm doing now. And that's why I stopped doing that and started focusing more on this. And for those of you that have been following me, you already probably knew some of this information if you follow my channel or my page a lot, if you followed it for a while. So that's what I do now. I do full-time art, and I have done since the beginning of 2018 on a full-time basis. I've managed to start work. I started working a lot more in 2015. That was when I really started kind of getting out of my weird post-graduation funk. Took me a couple of years, but I did it and started working hard again and trying to make the best of my ability and what I have to offer as an artist. So that's what I started doing in 2015, and then also in 2015 I started my social media pages, and I started posting more to a lot of these gun groups that I was a part of. Like there was several gun related groups on Facebook that I kind of was like, I was a part of. I didn't really participate. I didn't talk a whole lot in them because I didn't have anything to say, and I'd gotten into shooting kind of in college. Really, I'd gotten into gun buying when I was in college. Like I started becoming interested in handguns and shooting, and but I wasn't really a serious shooter, and I still don't consider myself a serious shooter. I shoot as much as I can, but I don't shoot. I can't really afford to shoot a whole lot, so. I started getting more interested in shooting and training, especially within the past few years. Probably 4 or 5 years, I got really more interested, and that's why I do the work that I do. I'm going to go into another separate video about, finding for art people, what do we, why do art people make the work that they make? And it was something that I kind of harped on my students a lot, was finding their niche and finding their interest apart from making artwork. There's got to be more than just the act of making work. And like I said, that'll be a separate podcast episode in the future when I cover that topic. So yeah, I started posting artwork to different pages, and I got a lot of interest, a lot of traction, a lot of people interested, and it was really exciting. I started selling work, which I had sold artwork before, but nothing really consistent. It was always a shock when I did, and it was always wonderful news. Um, and then I started getting commissions, people wanting me to make things for them, which I was more than happy to do because, commission is money, and that's more money is more ammo, more whatever, right? Paying the bills, right? So I started doing more of that. 2016, 2017, I was really, getting more and more, and I was getting introduced to a lot of people in the firearms industry, trainers and people that worked in for different companies, people that were, it was just I was starting to gain some traction. I did a couple of book covers. I did the Stephen. Oh, geez, did I really just forget his name? Stephen Hunter. I did his last book cover for G-Man, at least the hardback copy. That he found me through the Firearm blog, which shared a bunch of my work one time. So I started getting a lot more opportunities, and by the end of 2017, I realized, what, the full-time job that I was working, which I was working in a frame shop, and then the side job of teaching, I was working basically a full-time job and a part-time gig. It didn't make any sense anymore because I was getting more work doing what I wanted to do, which is artwork, this work. So I just started to do this basically full-time, and then I still taught, but this year has been the first year that I stopped teaching, and just did artwork full-time. So that's really kind of me in a nutshell. I live in West Virginia. It's where I wasn't born here, but I was raised here, and went to school here at Marshall, and my history's here basically, and I like I said, I like firearms related content. I like history. I like military history especially, and history about war, like the Civil War and World War One and Two. All those things I find interesting, and I like to make content about all of them. Um, art related content, and I just that's my thing, and that's me. And my lifelong interest in martial arts, which I haven't done a whole lot of actual physical. Like I used to do a lot of taekwondo, a lot of other free hand, empty hand type martial arts when I was a kid and a teenager. I did a lot of that. Um, that translated really well into the firearms training, and that interest there. So it's kind of interesting how that developed, and that might be another separate podcast topic. So I think in the future, and this is for people that haven't watched my first little intro video about what the podcast is going to be. I'm going to cover a wide range of topics, and it's going to be a lot of art related topics, and it will also be a lot of gun related content, maybe some political stuff. I'm not going to get really political. I am political personally, and I do follow politics, and I have my own opinions, but it's everybody's different. Everybody comes from a different walk of life with different experiences. I'm not going to try and shove politics down anybody's throat, but I might talk about it and just point out relevant things. Hopefully, get people thinking a little bit. And one thing I try to remain humble, and I don't feel like I'm ever totally right about something. I'm not one of those people. I'm constantly trying to learn from other people and people that know more about topics than I do. So even with art, this is what I do, and I still feel like I have a lot to learn. So if you like the idea of this podcast, if you like the idea of this content, if you like what I do, and you want to see more of it, I have a Patreon, which is patreon.com/drawn DRAWN Fire, FIRE. So if you want to get on there and support the channel, support my work, I give artwork away to certain people. I give special prices on prints and artworks and things of that sort. I try to do as much as I can for Patreon subscribers. I don't have a whole lot of them. If that ever changes, then I can do a lot more stuff like this. That's better quality for one thing, and I can do other things for patrons. It's really kind of the way of the future, I think, is crowdfunding type sources like that. I make my living from people buying work, buying prints, and things like that. So if you support my Patreon, you're supporting me, and you help me continue to do this. And if you find that's valuable, please consider it. If not a big deal. It's fine. Made it this long without substantial Patreon support, but your support's always welcome, and I'm always happy to have it. So that's my shameless self-promotion right there. This video is getting a little long. I don't plan on making these videos terribly long, but this one's getting there. So I think you've probably heard enough of me rambling. If you have any suggestions for videos, comment in the comment section. Let me know. Other things that you'd like to hear about or see, or I'm planning on doing some videos about let's see, some of the topics that I've come up with. Basically, I'm going to do a podcast about like favorite types of some of my favorite artists, and some of the kind of art that I like. That'll be something. I want to do a podcast about sort of the evolution of visual art and what it means to people, and how I feel like I've sort of contributed to a little tiny bit of it. I'm not even putting myself up there with real professional important artists. I'm not doing that, but there's a difference between the artists that live and work in like New York City or some major place like that sell work for millions of dollars, and people like me. There's a big difference, obviously. I don't sell work for millions of dollars. But, I think that'll be an interesting little discussion video. And there's all kinds of videos. I mean, I want this to be like an open sort of discussion and podcast sort of video. And, I plan on talking about films and shows and content like that I really like. That could be pretty cool. All kinds of stuff to talk about. If you're in the gun world, like if you're on social media and you're into gun stuff and training stuff, there's always a scandal or a situation happening, like the Benchmade political contribution issue that came up or whatever. I mean, there's always stuff like that comes up. There's always legislative stuff. There's always world events stuff, like recently what happened in New Zealand with the shooting. There's all kinds of things like that to discuss, and I'm not gonna say that I'm an expert on anything. I'm not. I'm a student on everything, and that's how I like to view myself and everything that I do. So, like I said, if you like this content, please support it, and appreciate you sticking through this episode. And I'm gonna try and get an episode out every week, at least one, maybe more if I can, but.